Hello, ladies, and welcome to today's circle. So I'm actually jumping back in to record the front part and also an exercise just because we got involved in chat in our circle last night. So just to kind of make this flow a bit easier, and you can follow along, I've come in to re-record the bits that I needed to that we kind of cut through. And so just to kind of set the scene on what this replay and class is about, it's all about confidence, but specifically confidence when it comes to actually manifesting what we want. And I know that confidence and self-esteem are really common blocks that we will face, particularly, but not exclusively women. But I really haven't met a client that's not in some shape or form struggling with this element when they're trying to create a change in their life or change path. And so today's focus is really about getting under the skin of what is the root cause of this. So, where does it come from? Why do we feel it? And why do we keep defaulting into it? And so, as we get on to that, and particularly when I start to talk about tension, when we are creating, these are important things to know. So, starting off with the roots of confidence, and then how do we actually start shifting out of this? And how do we start building our confidence as we go on and then taking action? Because obviously, and this is where confidence as a block will tend to come in, where it will stop us from acting at all. It's almost like we have a um, not the word's not presumption, expectation that we need to be confident before we even try. And if you have that mindset, you won't ever try, basically, because building confidence is almost exclusively about the courage to step into the fear that it is around, which no, that's not easy, but that is really what it is. And so before we dive in, I wanted to just introduce myself to those that are new to me, but also to talk about my story and journey with confidence specifically. So, for those who haven't met me, I'm Victoria and I am a women's empowerment coach and a rapid transformational therapist. I will explain what that technique is at the end, and energy healer as well. And so, I'm here to support other women making this journey to awakening and coming into the true essence and coming back into ourself and really gathering what we need in order to create a life of freedom, fulfillment, purpose that you will likely be getting called to if you are on this call or listening to this replay. And so I would describe myself, I am a very free spirit. I wasn't always living that way though. And I'm on my own journey to awakening, going deeper and deeper into my essence and my mission and what I'm here for, and creating a life that I love. So a life that aligns with my heart, which is very much on its trajectory right now. And you'll see from my pictures that there's a lot of travel. I am a gypsy free spirit soul. This is in my heart, always has been, never won't be. And this, when it comes to creating freedom and fulfillment, we really have to anchor our life around us. And for me, that is so critical. And so right now I live between Australia, Bali. That might change next year. Who knows? That's just the way I like to live. So I found a way to create around that what's true to my heart, and also stepping into the mission and the purpose around awakening, because that is just so pertinent to what I'm here to do. And I've done all this through manifestation, alchemy principles. They sound like fluff and ease, but they are anything but. It is like quite literally shadow work. And it is what I'm here to teach, because it's in essence the way out. It's like the way out of the status quo. We'll call it that. But life obviously was not always like that for me. So I am ex-corporate. I literally left a vice president role last year to pursue my mission and purpose. I went from high flyer to, poor nomad, and came out of patterns of overachiever, hyper independent, burnout, very masculine energy. I just, throughout that period of my life, I just would oscillate in overwhelm, anxiety, depression. That was really my cycle up until about 4 years ago. I've come out of eating disorders, very dysfunctional drinking, all of these kind of shaped and formed into the same thing, because underneath all of that, to put it bluntly, was just a lot of self-loathing and hatred. And that all began in my childhood. So I was painfully shy child, a teen that even carried into my 20s. I barely spoke up at all. So not many people really knew me. The ones that got close did, but very few understood me. Part and parcel of the reason why there was that self-loathing and hatred was because as a child, I came in, I felt very misunderstood. The qualities that are part of my genius now were totally denied and not validated by my family, which is, I'm deep as fuck. The level of depth that I go into can scare a lot of people. It certainly scared my parents. The empathy, the sensitivity, the heart that was there was just all really overwhelming for my mum in particular. And I just shut off. And then went through a period that of just total and utter disconnection from myself. So no confidence and self-esteem. They weren't even there, honestly. I was in hiding. I didn't like anything about my personality. I hadn't accepted myself. And the only thing that really got me through that period and starting to shift out of it already, even before doing deep healing, was that I always had a confidence in my intellect and my academic and all of this. So naturally, I transferred all of my energy and focus onto how I could perform and achieve and all of these things, which kept me a little bit distracted, really. But in essence, the only thing that really got me through all of that blanketed period of just not liking myself, if I'm honest, was a fire in my belly that I was here to do big things. And I remember this fire in my belly really early on. There was a knowing. And in hindsight, when I look back, that was my soul calling me to wake up. And that voice never left me. And that was the voice that honestly kept me going, because it got pretty dark, particularly in the teens. That kept me going. And when I come on to talk about the tension a bit later, you're going to understand why we kind of have that voice and that guiding, call it a North Star, to keep us going. And so that voice was always there. But then I obviously got some slaps in the face that I needed to kind of wake up to who I was, to start coming into myself, to my heart, to change my path. I wasn't in the right place. I totally followed what I thought I should. And this all really came to a crescendo during the pandemic. That was where my catalyst of awakening was. So I had already done a lot of personal development, but this was the all shields are off moment. And that's when I started to really dive in and moving through all modalities of healing, probably quite a common pattern where we all go in because there's something wrong with us and we just dive. And then we move through the search to realize that there was nothing ever wrong with us. It's the layers that we put on top of ourselves that hide who we truly are. And so I began working on those layers and all of the stuff that had kept me stuck, hating myself, living in a life that I should, rather than the one that I actually wanted. And as I started to do that, I came back into myself and I started forming the new path and studying and moving and shifting until now where I am today, where I've let go of the old world or the stuff that wasn't serving me, and I'm paving the new one. And so that's really how I want to support other women that feel that call within. But obviously there's a lot of layers to work on, and it's a full self-discovery journey, which is really what I want to teach and to dive into. And so we're going to go over the root cause of confidence and really kind of starting back at that in terms of why is this such a block for us and what's really, really going on. It's not the full journey, but it will make sense, particularly with what you're both experiencing right now, because the upheaval and all of the stuff coming up is part of the process. It's like a call to, I call it the universal slaps in the face. It's like it's the stuff comes up and is so loud that you can't continue to acknowledge anymore. You've just got to dive into it. And so I don't know if you've heard of the hero's journey. It's like it's if you've read The Alchemist or anything like that, or they talk a lot into the journey. It's back in mythology, the typical journey that one goes on when they come back to their purpose. So they did a study of like mythology and all of these like high profile people of the journey that they went on. And this is in essence the journey we go on when we are seeking meaning and purpose. And this is no one's exempt from kind of moving through these stages. But the reason why, when I say coming back to self, that's ultimately what we're actually trying to do. And so the hero's journey always starts off with a new king or queen is born. So in essence, it's your soul. This is the true self. So this is you if you were to strip away your body, your mind, like it's your essence, it's your heart. It's really, at the end of the day, it is who you actually are. Now, when we come into this physical body, we have, I call it the egoic mind. Some people call it the monkey mind, the survival brain, any of these types of words. But in essence, it's our fear-based programming. And this part of us needs to be there because if we didn't have it, we wouldn't be able to survive. However, this part of us has some character traits that end up getting us a little bit stuck. And so when we come in, we have a set of core emotional and physical needs as children that we need to and will be looking to get met by our caregivers. And so some of them are like the need for safety and security, the need for routine and consistency, love, the need to feel unique and special, and the need to be accepted, recognized, approved for who we are at that true essence. By the nature of, it's not a pushing blame on parents, but by the nature of the dysfunction that will run across an ancestral line and kind of continues through, our parents will not meet every need that we have. So through our perception, there will be a gap there. Now, whenever we don't get a need met in this younger stage, so this is 7 and under, but even more predominantly 2 and under, which is when our mind is really just a sponge, we basically deem that they haven't accepted or validated who we are. And this is where we start to form beliefs because we have to operate in a way where our needs are met for survival. So this is where this survival brain comes through. If there's a part of you that has recognized that if you act in a certain way, you will not get love, acceptance, recognition, approval from your caregiver, your mind has gone, I can't act that way because it's not validated. I need to switch the way I behave. And so the critical part about this is where we form beliefs about ourselves, and all of us are holding dysfunctional, limiting beliefs, which is where the lack of confidence comes from. It is, in essence, a lack of confidence is we do not validate ourselves. But a lot of it will stem from childhood. Not always, because you can go through relationship experiences, which or work experiences where you're bullied, emotionally or physically abused. These will all have an impact on that because wherever you are looking for validation and it's not met, it starts to kind of hit the way we feel about ourselves, the way we believe we are. And this is where it comes from ultimately, is we have an unconscious interpretation that our true self has not been validated, and we start to build that lack of confidence. And so they call the stage child in hiding is in essence the masks and the way we've learned to operate. So aka not speaking our needs, not asking for help, doing too much for others, all of these types of things are hiding because we've learnt that based on what you were describing, particularly you, Mary, you've learnt to step into a giver role. Somewhere along the line, that's what you've interpreted you have to do to get love validation from those around you. And so we start to adapt this way. And the reason why it feels so heavy is because it's not in alignment with the truth of who you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I just feel, I guess being a carer, I think we all kind of have roles to play. And I think as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter, I guess others, I guess it comes with responsibility and obligations and things like that as well, that you have to feel that you need to fulfill this obligation. I don't know. I don't know whether that come from validation as well. You need to fulfill it in order to feel needed,
Yeah.
or a sense of identity, I guess.
Validation is the identity. So the ego will always be looking for how do I fit? What's my role? How do I belong? And we start to kind of learn our role right from a child in terms of what we seem. The more attention, love, and affection we get from behaving a certain way, the more we're going to operate into it because we're going, okay, this is going to get me what I need. And so, yeah, we tend to just start adapting into that. Equally, when it comes to confidence, if you were heavily criticized in an area or perhaps not given any validation at all, it's likely that's where your lack of confidence will stem from. So for me, I was heavily validated on my academic intellect, never had an issue with confidence in that area. And it kind of compounds on itself because the more you're validated, the more you perform well, and then you kind of just build. If you start from a base where no one ever validated you for something, you're criticized, you almost like build your base going down. And for me, that was a lot of personality characteristics, which is why I just dug into this hole and like kept hiding. And this is really what's going on in childhood, and we just compound on top of that. And then, so this is the strategy to compensate. So once we hold a belief about ourselves, so say it's I'm not enough, we start to compensate in our behavior for trying to prove that we are enough. So this could be for a not enough profile, it tends to be overachieving, overdoing, overextending, all of this trying to prove what we believe, because ultimately underneath it is there's a belief. They say it's a peasant because we're not connected into the fact that we are the soul and the king. We kind of grow up with a lower view of who we really are until all of our shit starts coming up. We begin awakening to these blocks and how they're coming up, and this is where we start to really shift into the journey where it's about the meet the wise man is just a metaphor for diving into understanding the self. We then, if I haven't got the rest of the slide, but it goes into pacify the dragon, which is the egoic fear-based part of us, and then it talks to returning the treasure, so starting to find what we're here for, the gifts that are unique to us, the meaning, the purpose, all of that comes through this journey. But it's about facing off with these aspects that ultimately are not us. They're an adaptation that we've picked up to survive. And so to get more specific with that, there's about like maybe nine common dysfunctional limiting beliefs that will be at the root of a lack of confidence and self-esteem, because as with all, we won't be lacking confidence and self-esteem in every area of our life. Some people they might be really deep into that, but by and large, if you think of the validation piece, it's likely to be playing out in some areas and not in others that you've either proved to yourself you can do it in something else, or you've been validated throughout your life that you're good at it. And so these are six of the most common ones that will be playing out to keep people stuck, really. And the two most common is I'm not worthy or lovable. And what this will So this is in essence, this is about a lot to do with relationships and how we connect into others. And the profile around this belief and how to know it's running for you is it is a people pleasing type of profile. It is the person who will put others' needs ahead of their own because they don't want the people to leave. So there's an underlying, I'm not worthy. It will be not able to speak needs. Um, it's characterized by holding a lot of resentment because you will overgive, but you won't speak what you need back. And there can be a lot of resentment built from that. Um, Fears of rejection here. And really, ultimately, at the crux of this one, it's not feeling lovable enough. And this is where the low confidence will come from. And so this type of profile will not typically not even go for what they want. They would just pull themselves back from it. The other common one is not enough. And the energy is quite different on this one. It's under the root, it's really the same. But these are people that just don't feel that they are enough, more so in achievements, accomplishments, capabilities, all of these types of things, like metrics of success, you could call. But typically, the way they will act is they will overdo it. They will go into the burnout. They will be the overachievers. A lot of corporate high flyers will be running this belief because it's like this never ending escalator. And it's interesting because a lot of these types will appear to be confident, but underneath their striving and their continual go and perhaps even some power play, it's low self-esteem because they're trying to, the way I like to think of this one is they're trying to fill what they feel is empty within with achievements to make them feel more confident, but they don't feel confident. The other common one, which is it's not available to me. Now, this is just, it's when you think of it with confidence, it's mixed a bit in with scarcity because it's a belief it's not possible. So there is an environmental aspect of this of understanding how the world works and then kind of assuming that you can't have access to it. It's not available to you. Through the confidence lens, it's just deeming. It's like whatever you're going for, it's not for me. It's not possible for me. And this will just stop people from trying. And so it's a bit of a combination of environmental and internal as well. I'm powerless. Again, this is just completely denying any power within, and all of the power is outside. And so this will be portrayed either like with the low confidence is almost like deflation because they don't feel like they can actually even get what they want. and all of the power is outside of them. There can be a lot of blame and victim language with this. So I can't do this because of that. That's typical of this. I'm not safe is they lack confidence not only in themselves, but they lack it in the environment and people around them. But this will tend to typify from someone who's come through quite a volatile childhood where those around them were not safe and they weren't either emotionally or physically. And this is really where they start to lose confidence in its trust, like even moving forward. This is very characteristic of that. And then you've got I don't belong, which is really this is quite a big denial of the self because it's I'm different, but there's such an effort to fit in and to belong and to kind of go over because there's a lack of confidence in who they actually are, that there's a desire to mold and to shift in order to fit. So they are quite different flavors, but as like confidence hits us all in really different ways and can crop up in different scenarios as well. So it'd be good to know if any of them jump out at you, like when you think about what you're coming up against, if any of these jump out.
The three that jump out at me, I've always felt like I don't belong, like I'm not in the right place. I've always felt I'm not worthy and not enough. So they were the three that really resonated with me.
Yeah, yeah. I'm on those as well.
No.
Yeah. I share the same three though, but sometimes I feel powerless as well. Sometimes I feel even in my marriage or in my I feel that I just need to stick with it. If I'm unhappy, I need to keep the family intact, and I just feel I don't have the power to make a decision because one against five is I'm just nothing. I don't have the power to change things. And yeah, sometimes I just feel powerless to make any decision.
Yeah. And that will definitely be tying in with the not worthy, powerless. Those two
Mm.
can be quite interrelated because, yeah, it's a giving away of your needs and your power for the sake of for others. Yes, it's
Mm.
almost like, yeah, molding. And I'll share the link at the end of this. I've got a quiz you can move through because we do tend to have a more of a core, which will be we will have flavors of all, but there will be a core profile. And the reason why this is, and I'll share the book as well if you want to dive in. The reason why this is really key is when we start to uncover the way these beliefs actually show up. So they will act like invisible brick walls until you make them visible. So they will be, if you continue to sabotage and procrastinate and keep doing the same thing, just it's because you keep knocking up against these walls. And the more we get really familiar with how they operate for us, this is where we start to shift. And so there is these beliefs are tied into the Enneagram as well, which is a personality profile, but more so on, I mean, it's got the positive parts too, but it's like around the dysfunctional part that we all have within. And it's really useful to dive down into that because you will have a core profile and then be playing out some of these as well. And I come to this slide literally every webinar, whatever I do. I've named it a bit differently on this one, but we basically we've got child in hiding and the king and queen. Now at every single, and this is where people struggle because at every single moment in time, we have these existing within us. So we have a part of us that is the child in hiding. So it's running those beliefs of I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not powerful. it's running, it's there. It's like, if you think of it, it's almost the part of us that wants to build this wall around us and keep us contained to what it knows. It's the fear. It's, if I come out of hiding, I'm not going to be validated, in essence. And so we've always, this part's there, and but at the same time, we always have the queen within. We always have the soul within. We always have the heart within. We just don't focus on it. And in any given moment, like literally right now, these are two parts. But the issue is we start focusing on the child and hiding. And the way we do it is we recognize that there's patterns that we don't want, and we focus on those patterns and changing them, rather than on the part of us that already exists within us, that already has the confidence, that already knows that we're expansive, that is, it's us, it's the true self, it's coming back to that, it's within, it's not, no one else is going to lead you to it but going within. And so when we're moving through change or trying to create a new path, this is the most important thing to be aware of, is this tension, because this is where people will fail. They'll go back, they won't change, they'll come back into the familiar. Is we are always working with this tension within, where we have, if you think of it like a rubber band, we've got the child in hiding, which is afraid. It's running the old patterns that we've always done. It's the, if you watch the Truman Show, it's kind of like this part of us creates a little Truman Show, and it's a bit of a safe reality, and we know it. It's familiar. And then on the other side of the rubber band, we have the queen, which is our soul, it's our heart. And as you were hearing from me, like I always had that inner knowing or calling towards meaning and purpose right from a young age. That only that calling is what pulled me through all of that crap. But this is what pulls most people through that crap, is hearing that voice. There's more. I want to come back to myself. Like there's that craving for the fulfillment and the freedom. It's this part. And so when we start making change, we've kind of recognized the child in hiding, and we want to start moving into the soul and to create what we actually want and what will fulfill us. The moment we do that, our child in hiding is going to be like, come back here. Where are you going? Don't go that way. That's scary. We haven't been that way before. Come back. And in many ways, when we make a call to create change, our ego will get louder, because it's like, whoa, where are you going? So it's going to be trying to pull you back. Equally, when we sit in just the child in hiding, so when we're in, hating our lives unfulfilled, we're never going to get rid of the tension that comes from the other side, which is you need to change. You need to fulfill your heart. You need to follow your soul. You need purpose, meaning. This is going to be pulling there. So this is the tension. Does that make sense? Like, can you feel that within yourself?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's
But I wonder, we keep on, you're saying elastic sort of kind of rubber bands kind of pull you back. I just wondering why we allow that to be so. Is it a comfort thing? Is that a safety thing? I wonder.
hmm,
But yeah, we definitely, yeah, I definitely go through with that. Yeah, that's how to pull back and
yeah.
not moving forward or don't know how to move forward.
Yeah. It's a combination. So the pullback will always be about safety. So it's a fear of what. So basically, if the ego, the mind that has this element within us, if it doesn't know where it's going, it will freak out. So anything that's new, it will be like no, and it will pull you back. It's because it's like, I don't know where you're going. It's always about safety, and it's always about protecting to the familiar. Now, the reason why we all get pulled back is, I mean, there's numerous different things that are going on as to why this will happen. But one of them is that people genuinely don't have enough of an anchor point from their soul to be pulling them out. So that's one where people don't, instead of focusing on what they want, they focus on changing what they don't want. When you focus on changing what you don't want, you stay stuck in child and hiding because your attention's not actually on what your soul wants. It's just, I need to get out of here. And then you cycle. The other thing is that um, people haven't done enough awareness work and healing work around the child in hiding to know when it's coming. So, because the thing is, you might hear this in like the healing world, like get rid of your ego or your child in hiding. You don't get rid of it, you work with it. So you grow enough awareness of yourself and a breakdown of your patterns that you almost feel this part of you, this fear, drop in to your mind and your body. And you know, you're like, okay. And the moment you know, you've opened up a space for a different choice. The reason most people can't do that is because they're not even aware that they're running this. It's just they're going back. They're aware that they're sabotaging, but they're not aware of how the sabotage comes in and how sneaky it can be. And before you know it, you've gone straight back.
Mm. Yeah.
Victoria, would it be right to say as well that I think people find, like other people in our lives, relationships, whatever the case, I think it's easier for us to be the child in hiding and to stay quiet, to be that person that they've always known. Because the minute you start moving towards the queen,
Yeah.
and, you know, being the person that your soul is screaming out for you to be,
Yeah.
they try and move you back to the child in hiding. So it's external pressure as well as this internal conflict of,
Yeah.
far out, I'm sick of being on this side, I need to just burst out and be here. Would that be right to say?
100%. And honestly, if
Okay.
someone could have explained that to me before making change, I've been so shocked by it. And this even came up in the last circle because it is a thing where, yeah, the moment you do pull, they will try and pull you down. It's partly because of familiarity with how they know you, but also
Yeah.
your energy will be vibrating at their energy when they know you. And if you start to shift up, it starts to rattle them
Yeah.
because you kind of, particularly family, you kind of mirror back their stuff at them.
Mm.
And it's I went through, we're going to do a little exercise on this, but I went through one myself on the weekend in my business course because my thing that comes up is a fear of being seen. And obviously, I've been through a progression of that where people have already fallen out of my life because I've moved through this stuff. But there's like this residual fear of being seen. And I went into the fear itself, like actually walked into it. And underneath it, because it's not speaking what we want, the fear was that if I do this, there won't be any other people that will accept me as the truth.
Mm.
So you start to come back. And it was
Yeah.
quite enlightening. I was like, oh, okay. It's like a real fear that I will be left alone
Yeah.
if I step into it.
Yes, I can relate to that a lot. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
But then when you really sit in that, and because I really sat in that fear and you look at it, it's so illogical because there are 8 billion people on the planet. And am I really going to sit here and say that of my small circle who might all leave me, that there won't be another circle?
That's a very valid point. That's a very valid point. Yes.
and this is how we start to unravel
Yeah.
this stuff, because like you sit in it, I'm like, yeah, that's a real fear and it's like terrifying, but there are 8 billion people on this planet.
That's a good thing to remind myself next time I'm having that thought.
Yep. And like
Mm.
it is to do with the energy level. We can't, or we will struggle to be around, call it lower vibration people if we're working on ourselves into higher. It will actually genuinely be a struggle,
Hmm. Yeah.
but it's hard. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's
Can
hard.
I, do you mind if I also ask a question? And it might be bigger than this whole chat, but I always feel that there is something wrong with me that I'm asking these questions, that I'm wanting to
Mm.
break out and be the queen as opposed to the child in hiding. And I sit there and I think, I look at my sister and she doesn't have this identity issue. She doesn't have these thoughts. And I think, am I just different? Am I just super sensitive and therefore overreacting? Is that also a normal response? And
Yeah,
do we
well,
all have these kind of thoughts? We just address them or we don't address them.
no. So, well, welcome to my childhood. None of my family, anyway, and a lot of friends. No. You, some people, I, some people are genuinely not here for that. They like, and they confuse me as well. I was like, are you not even like thinking about this stuff? But those that are, it's like a turtle who keeps popping its head out. It's never going to go. There's nothing wrong. It's just
Mm,
potentially the people that you're around are not in that wavelength, but there are many others. There's absolutely nothing wrong. You are being, and this is not in a like a judgmental way at all, but you're being called to do bigger things here.
yeah. Okay. That helps as well because like I say, I think something's wrong with me. I should be just zipping it and living my life like everybody else. So okay, that helps. Thank you. Thank you very much for that.
It's the, you're either here to live the status quo or you're here to question the status quo.
Correct.
Questioning the status, like honestly, sometimes I wish I could turn my lights off.
Hmm.
But it's just a different path.
Yeah.
It is a harder path, but, and this is the thing, pick your pain, like the pain of, and there are definitely people that don't listen to the call and they get to the end of their life and they're in total despair.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, but pick your pain, like never listening to that call to find out, or the fear of going for it, because there is a lot of fear going for it.
Yeah.
Not going to sugarcoat that.
No, that's fair.
Mm. Mm.
But they're both pain.
Mm, understood.
Mm.
So yeah, so this really, the key is understanding these two. I'd say most of the work is getting familiar with the child and hiding, because it's like anchors on your feet almost. But at
Mm,
the same time, connecting into the self, because you can do these at the same time. It's really um, just through the ways to connect into, and almost just not even expecting anything of your heart's desire is what brings you joy. Like, where do you feel in flow? Like, what
mm,
grounds you? What calms you? All of these things, and just like bringing more of that part out. Because this is the part, particularly when we're on the search for meaning and purpose, the only place we can get answers for that is the essence and the soul, because only that part of us knows what we're here for and what our genius is and what's going to fulfill us.
mm.
No one else can give that to us. Okay. And so building confidence. So, and this is a key point, and it goes to the tension as well, is you do not need to be confident to go for what you want. And that sounds silly, but it's not. Because, well, one, because confidence gets built over time, but also because with the tension point, you have a child in hiding that doesn't feel confident at the same time as you have the expansive soul. We don't get taught to connect into the expansive part of ourselves that honestly has so much confidence and power within. We just focus on the part of us that we want to change. It's focus. And obviously focus is a muscle. So if we've been focusing on operating a certain way for a long time, we're going to have to go through the same process of learning anything is like it's diverting focus. But as I was saying in the previous slide, getting more familiar with that part, it's there. And so if you continue to focus on the child in hiding and needing to fix, you'll stay focused on that unless you have the anchor point. So if you focus on that child in hiding and you're working on becoming fully aware of it, you're working to neutralize it. And by neutralize it, I mean accepting it, allowing it to have whatever it needs to come up, whatever's repressed, but then knowing that you can shift your focus to the other part of you that is expansive, has confidence, is like already knows where you're going. That's probably my hardest part on this journey, to be honest, is surrendering sometimes where you're like, ugh. But that expansive part of you kind of already knows where you're going. It's just we don't. It's that's another topic, is learning how to to move with that. But it doesn't. We don't have to be confident to go for what we want. We just have to be willing to face the fear that comes up because we don't feel confident. And these are really the strategies, and that they sound simple, but awareness is key. It's total honesty and truth with our patterns, where we feel blocked, things that we keep running into and cycling, the fears that we have. For any fear you have, just ask, if this was to happen, what does it mean about me? And you'll get what the fear is actually about. So if it was a fear of failing, that's why you don't go forward. If I was to fail, what does that mean about me as a person? And you'll start to kind of claw your understanding of what's actually going on and the invisible blocks that are coming up. And I call it neutralize, because it's not about getting rid of. It's actually impossible to get rid of your ego, because if you didn't have any fear, you would have no radar for anything fearful and you would die. So you need it, but we just need to work with it. And as I was saying with my example before, how I walked into the fear, and then I realized in that moment, I'm fearing a couple of people leaving me when there's 8 billion people on the planet. And we start to bring this type of logic into what we do. You just start to take the heat out of it. It's like the charge dissipates, just the neutralization. It's no charge. It's like, yep, I'm afraid. I've got some fear right now, but the charge is out. I'm also going to focus on the part of me that believes. Now, this doesn't happen overnight, this process. This is like a kind of a daily, really, awareness of self and the patterns. And starting with observing yourself with full truth and just noticing it. And then with the neutralization it's almost, instead of trying to change it, it's like, okay, I'm feeling fear. I'm not that confident right now. Allowing it, and then almost taking that charge out and then shifting the focus to the other part, which we're going to go into a bit of an exercise so you can understand what I'm talking about. And then we need to take action. This is the only way in the end of the day to build confidence, is through proving ourselves to ourselves. So you can affirm yourself into confidence, but if you don't actually step up and face the thing that challenges you, where you have that fear, you're not going to break it because it's a proof point. But where people go wrong is they try and do too much action. So they try and take themselves too far, and then they traumatize themselves and they just stop. You've got to go step by step by step. And I, through action, like purely through action, I moved from a crippling fear of public speaking to enjoying public speaking. But I did it over time. I was partly forced to do it. I now understand why, because it's part of my mission or purpose to have had to have mastered that skill. But I started out in my corporate career and presentations were part of it. And I'm talking crippling as in up all night, not eating, diarrhea, nausea, all of this. I would, every time before a presentation, I would literally write it out script by script, like literally every single word. And I wouldn't stop rehearsing until I knew every word. And it was that. That's what I used to do. And I would get up and I would be freaking out, clammy hands, all of this. And I did a couple of those. And then it never got easier at the beginning until something just started to shift. And then people were giving me comments like, "You're a really confident speaker." I'm like, "What?" Oh, they can't see what I'm feeling. They're seeing something different. And then it starts to clock. I was like, okay, maybe I'm not as bad as I thought. Get a little bit more of that. And then it just slowly started to go on. And it got to this one presentation, which was the biggest one I did in an auditorium. And I still did the whole rehearsal, but I knew that I nailed it. And then from that point on, it just started to get to the point where I stopped writing notes. I stopped rehearsing. I got to the point in corporate where I just showed up and presented, and I had absolutely no anxiety in my body, purely through action and
That's
proving.
amazing.
I'm very proud of that because
Yeah.
quite a real problem, like a real problem.
That's a massive turnaround.
That took years.
Massive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I'm amazed. I'm amazed. I'm just thinking if I was in your shoe, I would stay away from public speaking. If I couldn't sleep, if I couldn't eat, if I
Yeah.
have
yeah.
nausea, that sounds very, very fearful.
It's
And I
intense,
would
isn't it?
stay away completely out of it. I would not try. I would not,
Well,
torture myself to go through all that. But it's amazing that you went through it and overcame it.
well, I put it down to I and when you're creating what you desire, your anchor point needs to be better than mine. But I had such a focus on people thinking I was really good at my job. And that was such a big drive that I couldn't not do the presentation because it would mean that that would be faulted. So I had a bigger drive than the fear, if that makes any sense. But the fear, that took about 5 years.
To go from fearing public speaking to enjoying it,
to
essentially.
getting a buzz.
Wow. 5 years. Wow.
Yeah.
That's good. Wow.
So that is how it can happen. And you've got to, people traumatize themselves too quickly. But if I had have gone from that fear to going into the auditorium, I would have been absolutely screwed. But I did small over time. And then slowly, it's literally you get the validation and then you start feeling it in yourself. And then you build on it, and then you build on it, and then you build on it. And then the anxiety turns into excitement.
Okay.
So if there's anything like a goal or a fear or anything where that confidence comes up, break it right down. And the thing is, to be confident, you will have to face fear.
Understood.
It is and particularly because you're on the journey, Julia and Mary as well. I became acutely aware that the speaking is such a core part of my mission and purpose that the universe almost drove me into that situation to conquer it, if that makes sense.
That does.
Often what you fear the most is a lesson or something that you have to lean into that's going to eventuate into something. Okay, so I want to do a little exercise. So for this exercise, I want you just to, if you can grab a journal and paper and pen so you can pause this and come back to it after, because I want you, after we finish every time, I want you to be noting down what you feel. And I did this exercise over the weekend with myself on a back end of a business call with my mentor, diving into my fear of being seen, which is naturally sitting in my child in hiding, and then the queen, because this is continues to surface as a block when it comes to showing up in this way, not necessarily like being here, but actually speaking the truth of the depth and all of that. And this exercise shone quite a light on that one for me. So I will talk to that towards the end, but grab your journal and paper and just have it to the side of you. And when you're ready, just kind of sitting in it wherever you are and just closing your eyes. This isn't going to take you like super deep. It's just to give you a flavor of it. So just taking a deep breath into the belly, just filling it all the way up. And then just exhaling really slow out. Make sure that exhale is longer than your inhale. And just taking a deep breath in again. And then exhaling slowly out. Just one more time, taking a deep breath into the belly. And then just exhaling slowly, just feeling yourself dropping down into your body. And now I want you to think of a specific area, event, time where you know that your confidence comes up and blocks you. So for me, a moment like this would be going into a public speaking presentation, or it used to be. Thinking of a moment like that where you just know that your confidence is just so lacking in this moment, it's really quite a fear for you. So I just want you to have that moment. When you're ready, you're going to draw a circle out in front of you, and you're going to step into that moment as if you were stepping into it. And so just with your finger, just drawing a circle out in front and just drawing your hand 3 times. And when you're done with that, just pointing at the circle and saying child in hiding. And I want you to step into that moment that you came up with and just observe. Note what your body is feeling, what your mind is telling you, what you might be wanting to do in response to sitting in this fear. What does it feel like? Does it feel exposing, heavy? What can you feel in your body? Is it slumping? Is it nervous? Does it want to run? Is it frozen? Does it feel anger? When you're ready, just taking a step out of that circle, just shaking that off, just shake it off, shake off the fear. And I want you to quickly write down what you noted about your child in hiding in this moment. And so for me, when I did this, which was about the fear of being seen, it was quite intense, honestly. It felt, I wrote it down, feels like being naked. There's a pit in my stomach, overwhelming energy, feeling like hate and envy coming at me. It doesn't feel safe, like the body is under attack. Feel alone, unsupported, like the ground is shaky. Feeling like my body was in an abscess, almost like sinking, all this energy coming at me. So just noting that down, and then when you're ready, clearing that out. And I want you to think of a moment where you have felt joy and flow and expansion. And we want to come into the queen here, or the soul and the essence. You might not have a specific moment, just set the intention to step into what it feels like to be in your essence. And again, drawing a circle out in front of you, moving your hand around 3 times. And when you're done on the 3rd, just pointing at the circle and saying the queen. I want you to step into that circle and just feel what it feels like to be in that queen energy, your essence. What does your body feel like? What kind of energy can you feel around you? What are the thoughts in your mind? Any sensations? Just observing what's obvious. And when you're ready, just taking a step out of that circle. And again, just noting what the queen felt like to you. Obviously, it will feel very different to the child in hiding. So for me, in this same one, that queen, when I'm in child in hiding, my energy almost feels overwhelmed by the environment, and I feel like a child, like my body goes quite small and concave and just in fear. When I'm in the queen, I feel my energy expand out and like I'm on a podium rather than in a crowd deep down. And the energy just gets very powerful and very safe. The ground is solid. And I want you to notice the difference between these two, because when we're in a child in hiding, we feel very separated from everything, which is why it feels so fearful. When we step into our essence in the queen, we're starting to go into the oneness and being part of consciousness, feeling the energy around us, all of that, which is very different. And just finally, what I want you to do is stay in that queen. Just feel into that energy that you felt. And now I want you to draw a circle around you, in front of you again, going 3 times, saying child in hiding. And I want you to step into the circle that you went to the first time, that child in hiding, but I want you to do it as the queen. So step into that moment where you felt that fear, that confidence come up. But this time you're stepping in as the queen. And just observe what's changed. What happens to the fear? What's happening to the body, the mind, the thoughts? And when you're ready, just stepping back from that circle and just noting down what was different. Because you'll find that it's very hard to hold the fear when you're in the Queen energy, because it changes how you see it. And so when I did this literally on the weekend, and you might need some processing time after this as well, because I certainly did with mine, because I was going into a very root, is when I stepped into a fear of being fully seen, which underneath is a fear that everyone's going to leave me and reject me and I'm going to be all alone. When I step in from the essence, the Queen, it's not possible to be alone because there's a connection to all. But also when we step in from this perspective, we come to realize that the fear is quite illogical as well. It's not very very likely I'm going to end up on my own. There's a lot of people on this planet and a lot of people that will match with where I'm going. But equally, we're really tapping into the support that's kind of all around when we bring this element in. And so I wanted to do this exercise because it's really powerful for you to be able to see that in any moment, there's a choice of which energy you step into. The two are there and existing, but it's where we place our focus. And this is obviously an exercise to keep doing always, to draw an awareness to these parts and this tension that will be playing out with us in all moments, and working with it consistently to see how your focus shifts over time. If you continue to kind of stay in the Queen energy, deliberately do it as you step into your fears and just watching and noticing what happens. But I really wanted to use this to really land the point that you already have a part in you that believes in you. It's just your focus has been on the part of you that does not. And when it's about building confidence, it's not a external thing to gain, it's an internal thing to tap back into, because it's already there. It's just that your child in hiding you can't see it all the time. So hopefully that was a helpful exercise, and one I would love you to take and to keep doing with me and working on the confidence, or just generally, like, even if you want to jump on a call and just chat through a little bit. As I said, I work with RTT, which is it's a psychotherapy tool, and it's got hypnotherapy, NLP, cognitive behavioral therapy, all of the psychotherapies. In essence, it means we're going into the subconscious mind. So we want to go into the subconscious mind because this is where these beliefs are held. The child in hiding is formed in the subconscious. It's basically 90% of our behavior and our thinking, which is just running on that autopilot. But this is where the blocks will come from. Most people, it's childhood, and I'd say 98% it's deep childhood memories and wounds that have occurred as to where these blocks have started to kick off from, and then we just start to replicate them. So like a big indication for both of you is the way we show up in relationships is highly determined by what we have experienced from our parents and what we've interpreted from that dynamic as well. And yeah, so this is just a couple of women that I've worked with, and it's all different stuff. It's like imposter syndrome. I have worked on relationship blocks. I'm actually getting a lot coming to me with the anxious attachment styles in relationships and wanting to shift out of that as well. But in essence, it's a really deep dive. These sessions are quite intense because we're going right in to understand what's going on. And then there's a releasing and shifting process. And then at the end of every session, there's a hypnotherapy tape, which, as I was saying, without you knowing, your focus is on the child in hiding. We want it to be on the Queen, and that's what the tape is. It's like shifting our focus through to what we actually want to do. And so it's powerful. Like, yeah, I mean, I've moved through it myself. I've worked with multiple women. Confidence is literally the only, like, the common theme that everyone has. And it can be in career, relationships, back to self, phobias, all these different kinds of things. And yeah, so these are just a couple of the ones. So depression, anxiety, low self-worth, imposter syndrome, hiding in a spiritual closet, which is the fear of being seen. That's, yeah, what I've been shifting myself through too. And so the way I work at the moment is I just do either 1 month or 3 months. It depends how long you've been running a pattern and how stuck in the pattern you are as to which, if it's 1 month or if it's 3 months. And so for you ladies, I always do this at the end of these meetup circles. It's 10% off if you book in a strategy session in September. That's a no obligation session, by the way. If you just want to jump on and find out a little bit more about it, then please do. Equally, that quiz with the blocks, there is an unpack session at the back of that one too, if you want to kind of do that as well and get a bit of a profile and see where you want to go, then that works as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that is it, really.